In any worthwhile discussion about eliminating violent crime in the black community, there'll be folks who will passionately argue for hours on the methods in which we can end these problems. There are also those who simply want to discuss the reasons why there are so many of these crimes, and others who simply want to place blame on other sources. But if we're going to play the blame game, perhaps we should consider culture. Black violent crime often comes up in debates involving race. Take one look at a city like Baltimore, St. Louis, Detroit, or Chicago, and it becomes painfully obvious that it's a very serious problem. But the left has a different way of dealing with the criminal aspects. The left seems to ignore them altogether and pretends that it only exists due to circumstances related to white supremacy and not choices or cultural norms within those communities. They blame outside forces for the criminal behaviors like poverty or worse, the past and our history of slavery. When calling attention to black violent crime, another common argument is that whites do it too. While this is true, whites can also engage in violent behaviors. That has nothing to do with being critical of blacks who engage in violent crimes. Just because another group engages in improper behavior doesn't mean that we shouldn't address and discuss our improper behavior to try and better ourselves. Immoral behaviors should be pointed out and corrected, whoever does them. Ignoring those behaviors because the person doing them has the same skin color as you is ridiculous. Caring for people does not mean that you ignore their wrongdoings. To the contrary, criticism is a way of showing that you care. Think of it from the perspective of a parent. Should a parent allow a child to engage in poor behavior and excuse that child by saying, other kids were doing it too? If a parent took this approach, how would their child ever learn better behavior? We have to always correct poor behavior. Letting it slide is an indication of immorality and apathy on our parts. Another argument that's often made in response to the rate of violence in some black communities is whites being even more violent because look, they do all the mass shootings and serial killings. Let's respond to that using facts and logic. First of all, mass shootings or serial killings don't happen very frequently. Only 97 mass shootings have occurred since 1982. Out of all 97 of the mass shootings between 1982 and today, only 16 have been carried out by a black shooter. But wait, doing a little math should tell you that that's an overrepresentation of mass shootings compared to our population. Whites, by comparison, were responsible for 56 of the 97 mass shootings, which, although being a higher number, is an underrepresentation based on the percentage of whites in the population. Blacks are about 13% of the population and over 16% of the mass shooting shooters. Whites are about 63% of the US population and just over 56% of the mass shooters. By the numbers, blacks are disproportionately represented as mass shooters. If blacks and whites had an equal number of people in America, blacks would have more mass shooters than whites. And as for serial killers, Rayford University and Florida Gulf Coast University created a database of serial killers. What their extensive research has shown is that since 2000, most of all serial killers have been black. That's a big shock, right? In fact, blacks make up about 13% of the US population, but almost 60% of the serial killers since then. So why don't we see black serial killers and mass shooters on television? Your guess is as good as mine. But the fact remains that blacks are overrepresented in both mass shootings and serial killings. It's an unfortunate fact. It should also be noted that just like most violent crime, these things are rarely interracial. Most mass shootings and serial killings happen intraracially, meaning white on white, Asian on Asian, Latino on Latino, or black on black. So by dismissing these facts, you are only dismissing the killing of your own racial group. So if you want to say that Black Lives Matter, then we should get real about black violent crime. Being more critical of it and mentioning it more frequently would be a start. We might be able to save a few more black lives, and that's what really matters. I'm Chi Brown for Consider Culture. Please subscribe, like, comment, and most of all, share. And if you like these videos and would like to support my channel, please do so at my Patreon account. You can find that right under the video. Appreciate it, and I'm out.
No more Yaza Baza.